Hello and welcome to another installment of SuperConnectivity. I am your host, Charlie Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil Parrish.
There he is. Okay, Phil, glad to have you back. Let's see, where to begin this week? Well, one thing I wanted to talk about is apparently we have a new Spider-Man, and he has been to the set of Civil War to start filming Spider-Man, very much a part of Civil War. But I can't help but wonder about the timing. They've announced Spider-Man, and again, I just have to wonder if we're going to get a Spider-Man cameo in Ant-Man. Sure, it would seem like it's way too early, that it's way too late for the cameo, but I don't know. I think announcing this right before, if they're going to have a subtle thing about the origin of Spider-Man at the end of Ant-Man, I think this would be a good place, that to let people know to keep an eye out for it. I don't know. I'm worried about trying to do a Spider-Man origin in the middle of Captain America, Civil War 3, etc. And you don't have to tell a full origin, sure, but I think if you are following a Spider-Man story, you kind of... I think trying to put Spider-Man in there without first establishing his existence so that you can have this idea that Spider-Man exists and has been around for the period between Ant-Man and Cap 3. I think that's practical. I think if you're trying to tell the Spider-Man story right there, it's going to be a lot more difficult. See how they work it out. But that's
Are they doing an origin?
We don't know. We don't know exactly what they're doing. We know they're going to do a Spider-Man movie, but I think the Spider-Man movie is slated to happen after Captain America's movie. And so if they're going to introduce Spider-Man in Captain America, that's kind of interesting. But, it's like this. They can do previously, which is that you establish the Spider-Man at the end. And they could do with Civil War, where at the end of it, you're going to go, oh, and that's the Spider-Man tie-in. Possibly. You kind of think that maybe if they're going to make him a more integral part of the story, which is something I think the fans are maybe demanding, although they don't always care about what the fans demand because they want to give the fans what they want, and the fans don't always know what they want, It's like, we want everything right now, but really, no, you really don't, because that would make for an awful film. So just trust us. We're going to space it out, and we're going to move some pieces around, and we're going to make it work, and you'll love it. So that's interesting. But I would really love to get, what would be cool? Okay, and here's something they absolutely can do without having to worry about anything else. They could have a cameo by Peter Parker's parents, who are agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There you go. Because Hank Pym works with S.H.I.E.L.D., Hallie Atwell's in here. They can have, and I'm trying to remember what Peter Parker's dad, I think his mother was Mary. I can't remember what his father's name was. So the Parkers, Super Spies. Richard and Mary Parker, thank you. Yeah, I don't know where they got this whole, let's make them scientists things. No, they were spies. Spies cooler than scientists. That you can write that down, kids. They could put that in there. Have like a little Richard and Mary Parker cameo, and that would be pretty cool as well. Maybe even having Hank Pym reference something about, oh yeah, I knew this, Peter and Mary, they died, Maybe talking about like why you can't have strong relationships in the superhero game, and that even ties in nicely, Richard and Mary, they left their, they died, their poor kid had to be raised by his, aunt and brother who were both way too old to be raising a precocious teenager, So that would be cool. I'll give you that, some way to work that in. But yes, and Ant-Man is coming, and my kids want to see Ant-Man. I was really surprised with that. I said, "Hey, kids, you guys want to see Ant-Man?" They go, "Yes, I want to see Ant-Man." I'm like, "Oh, okay, wow." I wasn't aware you were that into it, but yes, apparently they are excited about Ant-Man. I think it's the Thomas the Tank Engine scene. That right now that's my favorite scene in the film, when Thomas the Tank Engine is barreling down on the Yellow Jacket, and then, oh wait, I have superhuman strength and I'm small, so it's really not that intimidating. It looks scary, but it's not. So that's so yeah, I think maybe excitement is growing among the young people with Ant-Man, and I'm excited. Let's see here. One thing, speaking of things that I'm excited about, that I actually for a long time haven't been that excited about, but recently I am getting into Hulk and the Agents of Smash, and it really shocked me that. I was watching the Ghost Rider episode, and it is corny at times. It is pretty universally campy. It is a very dumb. I don't want to say it's a dumbed down version, but it's it's kind of like the Super Friends, where the core elements of the superheroic characters are there, but they're placed in a universe that seems to have such lighter consequences. But that's actually kind of a good aspect of it, and that's why it's Hulk and the Agents of Smash is growing on me, and I'm like, and it is expressly because they are bringing in obscure and strange characters. You had Ghost Rider, which maybe is not an obscure and strange character, but he's kind of an obscure and strange character. He is a second-tier character, and getting these characters in there is a lot of fun. Within that, you have, it's interesting how it's playing out, and I'm enjoying it. I am really starting to enjoy it. I'm really starting to enjoy how they're playing with who the characters are and the tropes of the characters, and where they're going to go to next. It's exciting to me. I really want to see them do more with Jen as a lawyer. I really want if they could just establish that Jen Walters is a lawyer and has this other side to her beyond being just the She-Hulk. I think that would really make this series for me. So right now, that's the one thing that's missing. Also, they could do something a little more interesting with Scar, because, Scar and his barbarian... Personally, I would really like to see an episode where they all become their normal human selves, and then they have to deal with the stories of... They have to sort of find their inner smasher, even as they are in their human forms. That would be a great... That's my story to you for free there, Disney Marvel. Make that episode. I really want to see that.
Did you like the time travel stuff?
I'm sorry?
Did you like the time travel episodes?
Oh, I love the time travel episodes. Yeah. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought the time travel was great. I thought the alternate histories and how they approached it, where, the characters knew something was wrong, but at the same time, they also were like, I remember the Dracula episode where, well, there's Dracula's castle. Everything seems, the way it normally should be, but something's not right. So it's like they were aware of the universe as it did exist, but they were also aware that something needed to be done. And so that was very interesting how it all played out. Really enjoyed that aspect of it. And kind of, in its own way, speaks to Battle World, if you think about it, in that way that, you have to hold these two sort of conflicting ideas in your head that, there is this history, but this is the reality in which we're operating, and so we have to work within that. So that, that's good too. That's interesting there too, So Hulk and the Agents of Smash. Definitely, it's growing on me, and I'm kind of glad it's there. You know, I'm kind of glad it's there. Avengers, you know, still, I like it. You know, and that's interesting. You know, and that's the thing. I like Avengers, but Avengers is a lot more straightforward in what they're doing than Hulk and the Agents of Smash, because Hulk and the Agents of Smash has a very strong comedy element. And this was something I was mentioning when we were discussing the Howard the Duck comic book series on All New Marvel Roundup. Listen to the All New Marvel Roundup, kids. As I was saying, you know, this is really the time for Disney Marvel to revisit the Howard the Duck character, expressly because he is a character who deconstructs the genre of superheroes. He deconstructs comic book tropes and ideas, and that is the next stage. You know, we've had our superhero spy movie, we've had superhero adventures. You know, we're going to have a superhero horror movie with Doctor Strange, I suppose. That's sort of what they've hinted at. But, you know, we haven't really had a good superhero comedy in the MC universe that can play into all of these concepts, you know. And that is something that I would love to see. So I would really love to see a new Howard the Duck film set in the larger context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because, and as I said on the previous episode on All New Marvel Roundup, I really do think that was the failure of that first Howard the Duck film, was that it wasn't set in a world gone mad, you know, because that is the strength of Howard the Duck, is he is the same character, even though he's the duck. He is from essentially, if you look at Duck World was just like the normal world. It was people, they got up every morning, they went to work. There weren't demons and monsters and crazy characters running around. There were a few way off in the background, sort of like Sasquatches, you know. People might have heard about them, but no one ever actually sees one, because there was Doctor Strange on Duck World. So he's the normal person, and then he gets dropped into the very unreal world of superheroes, and that is what makes Howard the Duck a really phenomenal character. And what Marvel should do is allow that Howard the Duck into the MCU universe, either through Netflix, either through Howard the Duck on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Make that happen. I would love to see a full Howard the Duck movie, but if we're not going to get a Howard the Duck movie, I at least want him showing up in Daredevil and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I want him and Tia Leone back together. That's what I really want. You know, because who else could be Beverly Switzer than Tia Leone? I mean, you know, really, who else? Oh, no recast that I know, but I always have a special place for Tia Leone there. Okay. And that's Howard the Duck. So is there anything that's been on your mind in the Marvel Universe lately?
Let me think. Well, getting back to Hulk and the Agents of Smash and the Avengers cartoon, it just seems kind of weird to me that they're both set in the same universe, but the Hulk is like characterized completely different on both shows. Like on the Avengers cartoon, he just seems like the dumb bruiser type, but in the Agents of Smash, he seems more like Professor Hulk. It just seems
and
very
they
weird.
Just addressed that last episode. It's called Planet Monster, and it's the Kree basically coming to Earth to destroy Earth for being all earthy. And, you know, and they directly address this fact that, you know, he takes on a different role because the Avengers just want him to smash things. And when he's with the Smashers, he's kind of the adult of the room. He's Bruce Banner. And they have mentioned several times in the Avengers cartoon that, you know, I am actually one of the world's smartest men. You know, realize that, but that is who I am. I am Bruce Banner, you know, one of the smartest men in the world. And I remember very early on, he he does what you do when you have the genius that no one recognizes, where they're working on some problem, and he says, "What you're looking at is this,"
Mm-hmm.
And that is what makes him a great character, and and of course it is different because he's angry, and you also get this fact that because he's not being listened to, his rage gets built up more. So in the Avengers, Tony Stark is telling him what to do, and Cap is saying, just smash stuff. And Thor's like, we shall smash things, yay, I am a warrior. And, and all the smashers in that episode are like, why are the Avengers, treating Hulk so... like he's the mascot. He's the leader. He's our leader. You can't treat him like that. And but of course, at the same time, Bruce is like, well, no, they're right. I do have this great power to smash things. That is sort of where I'm at. However, he's trying to explain to them that, we've actually been fighting the Kree for a little bit because we had some cosmic adventures a little while ago. So I actually know how to approach these weapons a little better than you guys, so you should listen to me. But Tony, he doesn't listen. Those super genius characters. So they all get captured at the end of last episode, and then we'll watch what happens this episode. How will the Avengers and the Smashers solve their differences and save the world? I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe next episode is just everyone are slaves to the Kree Empire. Yeah, so I mean, and that is a thing, but it's also interesting because it's great that you should mention that because, again, when you get into this concept of deconstructing superheroes, they did specifically address it. They did specifically say, yes, the character differentiation is because of the needs of the two groups and what role Hulk fills in both of them. Because a lot of times when the Hulk doesn't have to explain things, he would rather not, because he's a surly sort. Whereas when he's with the Smashers, he has to explain things, because none of the others are going to be able to deal with this if he can't explain what's going on, because he's the Professor Hulk. So, very interesting how they work that out, and like I said, it's growing on me. It is a show that has more strength than I would have imagined, and of course, next season we get Kamala Khan on the Avengers, so I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to have Ms. Marvel just being plastered all over the place. Our first Disney Princess Marvel superhero crossover. Sing it, Kamala. I want to see you do a big, she's Pakistani, but she can still do a Bollywood musical style thing. That'd be cool, man. I love Bollywood musicals. And so does Kamala, by the way. They've established that in the book. She loves Bollywood musicals. And not ironic. She just likes them like a nerd likes things. Okay, so what was where were we? Okay. One other thing I want to talk about. One thing I'm hopeful they have established that the Caterpillars and the Secret Warriors are going to be part of the next round of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this opens two really interesting things. First off, if they actually follow it, you have characters like Krell's son, who is, of course, already established in the MCU through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I certainly hope, fingers crossed, that we actually get to see Crusher Krell come back. Crusher Krell was also shown in Daredevil, because that's who Battle Murdoch is fighting that day when he decides not to throw the fight. So Krell's in there, so I'd love to see Stonewall, who's Krell's son, come in there. I would love to see of course, Phobos in there. The little blonde kid who makes you afraid. That's great. That's an awesome character. And, the Greek gods, anyone can use them, so Ares can be in there without any problems. Then you have, but here, Ironically Druid, who is Anthony Druid's son, expressly because if you get Anthony Druid's son in there, suddenly you can start building up this backstory of unseen superheroes from the Hank Pym era, and that's the idea, is that you had that Hank Pym era where you had these superheroes who weren't in the public eye, who weren't fighting invasion forces in Times Square, or if they did, it got covered up, and so I'd love to see some references to Anthony Jewett in there as an old school superhero. I'd love to see some references to Ghost Rider's son, because actually one of the Caterpillars is Ghost Rider's son, who I think he goes by the name Brimstone, and he's got he doesn't ride a motorcycle, but he's got the chain. He's got the little Hellfire chain. He has some Hellfire powers. And since Marvel just got Ghost Rider back, he is absolutely on the table. So, that's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring out with the Caterpillars. And speaking of covering up alien invasion, unless you guys want to say anything about the Caterpillars, Phil?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Last thing I want to talk about. I went into my comic book store today, and I got my 4 books. And then I also got 2 more, because right on the wall, a 2-pack special, $4, for Conspiracy from February and March 1998. This was a book written by Dan Abnett, who was a big writer for Marvel's UK titles, as well as he did a lot of the cosmic books not too long ago. In fact, did some work with the what do you call it? The Infinity War or Annihilation Wave, one of those series, essentially where they established the current Guardians of the Galaxy roster. So, very interesting read. What is interesting? So this was a book came out in 1998 again, and it's essentially behind the creation of superheroes and how the government had essentially been manipulating events to create superheroes with the help of guys like Reed Richards, Bruce Banner, Hank Pym, Otto Octavius, Elias Starr, and of course Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is one of the keys to the conspiracy, as well as all the other military handlers that we have been shown throughout the years in Marvel Comics. And essentially you have this idea that, and just before the superhero era was the monster era. And so they have all the heroes fighting or they don't have the heroes, they have these big monster invasions that have been coming to Earth. And how the government decides to deal with it is they go to the smart kid they know, named Reed Richards, and he suggests establishing a think tank of super scientists who can supervise and address all these issues as they come up. And, it just, strikes me as how much that mirrors what eventually became, canon in the Marvel Universe for the Illuminati. Reed Richards bringing together a group of super scientists to sort of address and deal with these issues as they come up. And, it's fascinating to read this book that came out way before any of this was commonplace. I don't think it gets credited as being the starts of these ideas. I can certainly see how I can certainly see Hitch and Bendis reading these and saying, great ideas. How can we work these into the mainstream Marvel Comics? And I would not be surprised if, because 1998 wasn't that long ago, if that was part of the, part of the inspiration for having the Illuminati and having a lot of the sort of more interesting turns in the Marvel Universe, the creation of the by Hitch, and the idea that there was this clandestine organizing events. And it's nice, to have Boulevard Trask and Howard Stark as part of this secret cabal as well, which makes perfect sense, especially if in the MCU, Howard Stark is one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I'm going to recommend this is my throwback pick of the week. If any of you are at your comic book stores and you happen to come across Conspiracy from February 1998 and March 1998, episodes 1 and 2, pick them up. If you're a nerd who likes connections, not only does this give you some great connections to early 60s Marvel and sort of helps you establish a sort of dark, unseen world that is totally code we've already established as the 60s. And then you can look forward and see how stuff that is currently happening in the Marvel Universe can be tied back to this, and then through that tied back to those 1960s books. This is a book for you. So definitely everyone out at the comic book store say, hey, you guys have the book Conspiracy from February 1998, because I want to get that book. I highly recommend it to you guys. It's a great book, and that's my throwback pick of the week. I don't know if I'll do those very often, but when I saw that on the show, I cannot tell you how glad I am I did. So, anyways, that is, I think that's all the connections for this week, Phil. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think we hit a lot, yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot. So, everyone, it's been great talking to you. Connect with us again next week. If you would like to, you can always write to connectivityblog@gmail.com. Like our Facebook page. Listen to the all-new Marvel Roundup, of course, and like its Facebook page as well. And you can also follow me on Twitter @Charlie&rsquo. So where can they find you?
They can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I'm @nightwingpdp.
Very good. Okay, everyone. Connect with us again next week. And watch out for conspiracies. Take care, everyone.